If you ever feel out of control around food, you're not alone, and you're in the right place to learn practical, no-nonsense information about why you binge and how to stop. Binge eating does not mean that something is wrong with you. It's a natural but primitive brain response that you can correct. If you're ready for change, sign up for the Brain Over Binge self-paced online course for less than $20 per month. And if you feel you need personalized support, we also offer one-on-one coaching and group coaching. To learn more, go to brainoverbinge.com/subscribe. And I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the Brain Over Binge podcast, where you learn a simple, brain-based approach to ending binge eating. I'm Kathryn Hansen, your host, and I'm happy you've joined me today for another show. I'm looking forward to another great episode with Coach Julie, where we're going to discuss how to have long-term success in recovery. If you've had the experience of stopping binging for a little while and then finding yourself back in that harmful habit, this episode is going to provide guidance and help you understand the mindset and the actions that are necessary to keep going after that initial success and to get the issues with food out of your life for good. Hi, Julie. Welcome back.
Hi, Kathryn. So good to be here.
Today, we're going to be talking about following through in recovery. And this is a very important topic because we want you to get to the other side, right? Where you're not binging, have a healthy relationship with food. This is just no longer a struggle for you. And to do that, you need to follow through. So we're going to teach you all about that today.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I really have been thinking about this topic a lot because something that comes up over and over and over again is this idea of like, I know all the things, but I'm just not doing it. Or, you know, I do well for a while, but then everything blows up in my face and I just can't commit. I can't follow through. I'm not making it through. And so I thought it would be great to talk about, you know, ways to have long lasting recovery, because that's ultimately what we want.
Yeah, for sure. And as we change and as we build new habits and extinguish the binging habit, it takes a while for those changes to really sink in, for the pathways of the brain to rewire, right? When you stop binging, you'll still have urges for a while. And I think that's what trips people up is maybe they haven't had an urge in a little while and one comes up and they're caught off guard and they may act on it. So it's really trying to make sure that you're not acting on any urge that comes up. And that's a big part of following through.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, I think is this decision that gets made when you're embarking on this, that no matter what, I'm not binging anymore. No matter what, I'm not purging anymore. No matter what, I'm not restricting anymore, right? Because they all go together. And so it's that follow through, right, of that commitment of line in the sand. I am done with those behaviors. And every day waking up, recommitting to that, which doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect.
Yeah, for sure. Giving up restriction is a huge piece of following through. And that brings us back to those two goals of the brain over binge approach of dismissing the urges and also eating adequately. And if you're not following through on either one of those, it's going to send you back into those behaviors that you don't want in your life anymore, right? You can't have long-term recovery from binging if you're continuing to not eat enough. So that's a really big part of this.
Yeah, I mean, it is everything, right? Mm-hmm. It is everything. And so right at the outset, it's, I think, also about getting very honest with yourself and saying, am I ready to do this? Am I ready to give up restriction, give up purging, and commit to truly eating adequately? Because if there's a hesitancy, a wavering, if there's a wishy-washy stance of, well, like what I did, right? Like I'm gonna eat just enough and I'll be able to recover that way, right? Like with that hesitancy, with that wavering, with dipping your toe in, but not fully, it can be hard to follow through because anytime there's an urge, you're going to physiologically need food. And so it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's so important. Like eating enough is a lifetime thing. It's not just something you do for a little while to end the binging habit and then get right back to restricting, right? This is something we want you to nourish your body, sustain your body, meet your physical needs through the rest of your life.
Yeah, Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, and from that also, like getting to that idea of like it starts with a decision. I think it's also about getting very clear and very honest about where you are and how binging is affecting your life. I mean, I know for me, it was destroying my life. I had no quality of life anymore. I mean, I was missing time with my child. I was missing work. I was losing large swaths of time that I cannot ever regain. Right. I was frustrated. I was exhausted. I felt sick in every way. Right. And so it was a decision of like, I don't care if I never lose another ounce for the rest of my life. I am never going to binge again. I cannot be like this anymore. I can't live this way anymore.
Yeah, and when we talk about follow through, it is sustaining that motivation. Like you're saying, you're really clear in your mind about why you don't want this in your life, the harm it's causing you. And then also what you do want on the other side, the benefits of not binging, of getting your life back, of being able to be present. So, really having these motivations be clear in your mind does help people follow through. It's definitely something that I know both of us talk about a lot about in coaching and just helping people get that clarity and also knowing that you have to work to sustain that clarity a little bit, because if
Mhm.
you don't continuously remind yourself of those things, your brain will default back to, oh, well, a binge would be nice.
Exactly. Exactly. So, so true. Yeah. I mean, motivation is a feeling that comes from our thoughts. And I always say you've got to like regenerate motivation all the time. I mean, we did a podcast on that. It's something that you have to create over and over again. And, and what motivates you in the beginning might not be the thing that motivates you in the middle and might not be the thing that motivates you later on. Motivations change. And so it's a very fluid thing. And it's important to recognize that. Plus, you don't have to feel like it in
Mhm.
order to do it. There are some days where you may not feel like eating adequately, but do it anyway. You got to do it anyway. That's the thing. I mean, recovery sometimes is about doing things that seem boring. You get up every day and you eat your adequate meals and you expect and allow urges in between, or you dismiss urges in between because that's what's going to lead to long lasting change.
I really like that you brought that up about motivation, because we don't always feel motivated, but we can still do the things that we need to do. And when you're reminding yourself of why you want this, you may not feel excited all the time, but you'll have this sort of deep awareness that, hey, I just don't do those harmful behaviors anymore. It's just not an option in my life. I want what's on the other side. Even though you're not excited about it, you just do it. It's kind of like going to work every day, right? Like you just
That's
know
right.
you have to do it.
That's right.
And yeah, like we totally want you to work on your motivation, but just know that you won't feel it all the time, but that doesn't mean something has gone wrong.
Exactly. Exactly. Not at all. And not at all. I mean, and it's again, with food, we always expect that everything's going to be perfect and we're going to do everything perfectly. We're going to be constantly motivated and there's going to be no struggle, but there will be struggles. Like there will be. And it's just important to, take it out of the food realm and think about other things you've achieved in your life that were difficult, whatever those are, at a job, writing a book, running a marathon, if you ran a marathon, whatever it is, like there are days when you didn't feel like it, but you did it anyway because you wanted the thing that was on the other side. And it's the same here with recovery. You may not wake up and feel like eating your adequate meals or eating adequately in general. You may think, oh, I just want a quick fix. I want to restrict. I'll restrict until I get to a certain size and then I'll deal with recovery. But the truth is that, it's about the little things you do every single day, those little boring steps that you take every day, the things that seem to be imperceptible actually add up over time because consistency over time is what gets to lasting change.
Yeah, absolutely. And that applies when we talk about dismissing urges as well, because not going to always feel like dismissing an urge.
Mm,
The lower
mm,
brain and that primitive drive to binge that comes from those pleasure centers in your brain is going to make binge eating seem appealing at times. For sure. You're not going to just say, okay, that's not me anymore. I don't want to do that, and just experience every urge with complete detachment. Yes, we want you to have that
mm.
detachment as much as you can. We want you to realize it's not you, but sometimes you're going to feel like you want what the lower brain wants. That's just kind of how we're wired. And again, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean something has gone wrong when in those moments you feel tempted. So you won't always feel like dismissing an urge, but you can do it anyway. There's so many
That's
things in
right.
your life that you want to do, but you just don't do because that's just not who you are. So we really want you to get to that place where even when it feels like, oh, I don't really want to do this, that you just do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it comes back to that decision that you make right away at the beginning. Like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. I have decided this is how I'm going to live. And I'm going to keep repeating this, but it's so much easier when you're eating adequately to follow through with that decision. Because also, in addition to the fact that you're able to detach more easily from urges when you've been eating adequately, you're also very clear that you don't need food in that moment. There's no debating. Did I eat enough? Am I hungry? Am I not hungry? No, I'm good. I ate a really good meal just a little while ago, and I have another meal coming. So this right here, this is an urge. This is my chance to change my brain. This is the moment.
Yeah, that eating adequately gives you so much more clarity when it comes to dismissing urges.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And you're able
Mm-hmm.
to make those conscious choices about food. You're able to set, some gentle boundaries for yourself, like we talked about on our boundaries podcast, and knowing that you are nourished. And those sneaky little thoughts that say, oh, you need more and more and more, like, that's not true because you've had plenty enough.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, I can hear a lot of people listening going, yeah, but I can't do that. I can't eat adequately. It's too hard. It's too hard. I have too much weight to lose, or I don't know what adequate eating means. And so, to any of those kinds of resistance thoughts that are arising, I think it's really important to just say, I can figure it out. I
Mhm.
can just make my best guess. Good enough, right? We say eat adequately, right? Like, it's such a great word because it's not eat perfectly or eat the perfect balance of macronutrients. It's throw some food on a plate that you call it good enough and see what happens. See what happens.
Yeah, I had a simple definition in my second book that was adequate eating is just eating enough decent food. Like it
I love
doesn't
it.
have to
So
be
perfect.
anything complicated, right? But just kind of a satisfactory quantity and good enough quality, and you'll be okay. Like I think you know more than you think you know about eating,
Yep.
and people who struggle with this tend to be very knowledgeable, and sometimes that can work against you in a way because you're overthinking a little bit and very unintentionally, very innocently, but it doesn't have to be so complicated. You just have to get yourself enough food. If you end up thinking you didn't have enough food, it's okay to choose to have more. Like we talked about that again on the boundaries podcast. Like you can decide to have more food, set a gentle boundary around it, and then stop then. Like anytime you're choosing a reasonable stopping point and dismissing urges after, you're doing great.
Yeah. It again, and I love what you said about how um, we know more than we think we do. I think also sometimes the lower brain will say, I don't know. I don't know how. I need somebody else to tell me. I need a book. I need a diet. I need a program. I need a plan. I need to count. I need to track as a way to keep you stuck in the habit. It's just another sneaky way to keep the habit going.
Yeah, it's that thought of, oh, because I don't know, then I might as well binge. But binging is, for sure that binging is not the way to eat, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Binging
any
is never the answer, ever.
and it's
Yeah.
something that we've all experienced. Anyone who's struggled with this habit has had that thought. So you're definitely not alone. But when you step back and look at it, there's no logic in it. As for binging to be the solution to a problem with your eating, no, it's the furthest thing. There's a million different solutions before you get to binging, which is not the solution. So anytime you have that thought, dismissing it, and that is a really big part of following through on recovery.
It's not, I follow somebody else's formula or eat almost nothing or I binge, right? Like in between, there's so many other options. And again, getting back to that podcast we did on curiosity, it's like, I wonder if I just threw some food on a plate and tried it out, you know, give myself a good amount of decent food, right? And see what happens. Am I full? And does it give me energy over time? Like there are things that you can get curious about. Like, did I like the way it tasted? Did I like the combinations? Was it the right temperature? Did it have the right seasonings on it? Did it satisfy me physically and psychologically? And how long was it before I got hungry again? Oh, good. It kept me till the next meal. Great. I've got a plate that I can repeat there.
Yeah, I love that. Just trying to make it as easy as possible for yourself. Now,
Yeah.
I will say too that we definitely support people in many different ways of eating. Everyone has a very different way to approach this. And some people, if you have been restricting for a very long time, binging, purging for a very long time, you could need more help in this area. And this is definitely something we talk about in coaching, but you could also need nutritional support, or you could need to track in a way that's very gentle and not dieting, and a
Sure.
way to make sure you get enough, or could need to implement more of a structure to your eating to really support yourself in that. So we understand that everyone is in a different place and everyone needs something a little different when it comes to adequate eating.
I mean, 1,000,000%. We encourage everyone to find their own formulas. I think that the big piece here is to not let the voice that's going to say, I can't do this yet. I haven't found the perfect way of eating, get in your way of consistency, of following through. Because the truth is that the way to figure out your formula is to try something and tweak it. So inherent in that process is having learning moments, is making some mistakes, is eating too much or too little and figuring out what works. And then with the follow through commitment of, even if I wasn't satisfied by my meal, or even if I ate a little bit past full, I will not binge.
Yeah.
I will use that as information and keep moving forward. I will use that as, oh, good, a learning moment. What can I take from this?
Yeah, I think getting through those times of eating imperfection, with air quotes, because there is no perfect eating,
Yeah.
that's a really big part of following through in recovery, because if you can get through
Yes.
those moments, you're doing amazing. And you may be tempted to think of it as a failure. Oh, I've failed. This means I'm on my way back to the habit. But no, like, this is your biggest moment of success when you can not eat in the way that you planned, or maybe have a little more than you wanted to, and you can stop and you can set that reasonable boundary of, okay, now I'm done. I might have eaten a little more, and that's okay, and not go on to binge and not fall for any of those thoughts that say binging is a solution. Those are big, big moments that keep you going and eventually, get you to freedom.
Oh my God, 100%, 1,000%. It is
Mhm.
in those moments, that's where the most recovery happens. In those moments where you have what you think is, a fail, is a mistake, and you have your own back and you just keep moving forward. That's the moment of true healing,
Mhm.
because it's, the days when you don't have urges, the days when you think you've eaten perfectly, those days are easy, right? And it's not that we want you to have hard days all the time, but it's on the days when you have the urge, when you eat a little bit too much and you stop and you don't keep going. Those are the days where you're really changing your brain. There's a great quote by Nelson Mandela: the greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the moment. It's, oops, I had a little too much, or oops, whatever. Okay, no big deal. Keep
Hmm.
moving forward. That's
Yeah.
follow through. That's follow through.
Yeah. And I think to do that, it's knowing that recovery doesn't mean being a perfect eater. Like, it's looking at your definition of recovery. And if you think recovery means you're going to be a perfect weight, you're going to eat perfectly every day of your life, it's going to be hard to follow through on recovery. So it's
Yeah.
really looking at your expectations and being like, no, I'm just trying to become a normal eater. And normal eaters eat imperfectly sometimes. Normal eaters aren't the perfect weight. I'm just trying to get back to being me, being me
Yeah.
without the eating disorder.
Normal eaters have urges sometimes.
Hmm.
Eat something they shouldn't eat, to eat a little too much, whatever it is. Like, it's not about never having urges either. It's about not taking them seriously.
And like learning to choose what food cravings to follow and what ones not to. And that's going to be unique to every person. Of course, we don't want you following the urges to binge ever, but the urge to have a little something pleasurable that you want, or a social setting and you want to try a certain food. Like, we want you to learn what you truly want to do in those situations and practice those situations and decide, like, what food cravings are you okay with following and which ones, end up making you feel bad and you'd rather dismiss. So it's learning to dismiss urges to binge first and foremost, but then those more nuanced food cravings to really come to terms with them in your own unique way.
I love it. I love it.
There's a couple other things I was thinking in relation to the following through, and one is weight, because I feel like that's a big part
Mm,
of it. Learning to be patient and allowing your body to regulate, allowing any of that binge weight to go away naturally, as you eat enough, as you nourish your body. and not to become impatient with that, because that's a part where people get stuck. And that all ties back to eating adequately, but eating adequately, even if you're not happy with your weight, even if you think it
Mm.
should be something else.
Yeah, that's such an amazing point. As we started with this whole eating adequately thing, everybody in the group that I've worked with, maybe not everybody, but most people in the group come in and it's like, I can't eat adequately all the time because, I have weight to lose. I can't eat adequately after I've binged because I've already put on so much weight and I'm so afraid of continuing in that pathway. I need to restrict in order to undo the damage of whatever happened yesterday. And that is a surefire way to stay stuck in the loop of restricting and binging. And so, yes, following through is again about, even if you have a learning moment, even if you eat some extra food, even if you're at a weight that you're not happy with, that no matter what, you're going to be eating adequately and trusting that if there's any weight to lose, it comes from slow, consistent choices over a long period of time.
Yeah, and when you get restriction out of your life, when you realize that is not the solution to managing your weight, right? Because restriction ends up working against you in the long run and making you eat more and put on more weight and binge, right? And you also realize binging is obviously never the solution to weight issues. When you get both of those out of your life, it puts you in a position to deal with any weight issues or health issues with a more clear mindset.
It's that whole notion of making peace with where your body is right now. This is the body that you're in right now. This is your body today. And nourishing it well, feeding it well, lovingly. And if there's any weight to be lost, the way to do it is through nourishing it in a way that is sustainable over a long period of time.
Mhm.
You want to be eating in a way now that you can eat forever. You don't want to start eating in a way that you think is going to lead to weight loss. You might be compliant for a little while and then start binging again, versus a commitment to, I'm going to start to learn how to actually feed myself in a way that is sustainable over time and build a trusting and loving relationship with my body so that if there's weight to lose, again, my body can release weight. And if I'm doing that consistently over time, and my body doesn't release weight, then I can, as you said, do some testing, find out, is there something going on functionally with me? Is there something wrong with my thyroid or my hormones? Is there something wrong? But more often than not, it's the binging that causes all of those issues,
Yeah.
or a lot of them. And many things get resolved when you take binging out of the equation and truly commit to adequate eating. But that doesn't mean it's going to be resolved in a day or a week.
Yeah.
It's months.
Yeah, it's really seeing that restriction is never the solution to weight. And, that is not us saying, okay, just eat anything and everything. We've talked many times on the podcast about learning to make choices for yourself that feel good. And you can refer to our Redefining Restriction podcast for more on that. And I'll link that in the show description. But it's not saying give up on your health, right? We want everyone to be a version of yourself that feels good. So it's just really keeping these weight issues in perspective. And I think it's just a big part of that follow through. So restriction is not a solution to weight. Binging is not a solution to weight. And also, I think another big part of following through is realizing that binging is not a solution to anything else
Right.
in your life. I
Anything.
think if it gets linked to emotions, it gets linked to, oh, I just need to numb out. I need to escape. I need whatever, benefits you think it's giving you in that moment. It's learning to detach from that and realizing that binging is not a solution to anything, no matter what comes up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, binging always and only makes everything worse. It's never the answer. It's never going to be the answer. And we may have linked it in our minds, right? We may have linked it through our behaviors. We may have linked it in certain ways, but it's actually never helped with anything ever.
I think just for example, people will tell me, okay, I was doing so well. And then I had this really difficult event in my life and I went back into the habit. So in their mind, it's like, oh, well, binging was something I turned to help me cope. The issue is not that it was helping you cope. It's that activated those old brain pathways, right? Like that had gotten linked to the binging in the past. So something bad happens, you have emotions, you have stress, and the brain goes to that automatic solution of, oh, I need to binge. So it's not that the binging actually helped you cope. It's not that the binging was a real solution. It's just that it activated those brain pathways. So that
Yes.
can be a really important part of the follow through in recovery, is just recognizing that there could be new contexts that come up in your life that activate those pathways. Those could be very stressful events if your binging was linked to stress. So just understand that and know that. And when it does happen, you can say, oh, okay, that's just my brain thinking I need that. That's that old pathway. But I know that it's never a solution. It never helps me cope with anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's that superhighway of the brain. And once you've done it in other areas, like if you've had time binge free and you've experienced any discomfort of any kind and not binge, then you know you have proof that anything that arises, you can handle it without a binge. And in fact, not only can you handle it, but without the binge, you're going to have more resources at your disposal to handle whatever's arising. It's not going to be easy, but it will be easier than if you added binging to it.
Yeah. And just really looking at it like, hey, in certain contexts, I may have more urges, but that doesn't mean I ever have to binge. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, love
Well,
it.
this has been great, Julie. Do you have anything else to add to this following through and recovery conversation?
I think it's just a matter of that recognition that, you know, follow through. It's this idea of long-term change. And so this whole notion of following through in recovery, doing what you say you're going to do, as you build that trust with yourself, as you see yourself doing the things that are taking you towards that binge-free version of yourself, that becomes who you are. And it's almost imperceptible, but it is a slow path. It's not instantaneous. The decision can be instantaneous, but the idea is that it's something that you recommit to regularly.
Yeah, and then you start noticing the benefits, you start feeling more confident, and then it becomes easier to keep going. But just to remind you what we said earlier, you're not always going to feel like keeping going, but you
Mhm.
absolutely can. And then it just kind of becomes normal. And that's may not feel as exciting, but that's a good thing. When it all just seems normal and you just are a person who wakes up, eats adequately, dismisses binge urges, that's just who you are. It's just how you live.
Exactly. It's like food takes its rightful place. It's delicious, and then you get back to living. It's
Hmm.
a delicious meal, and then you get back to living. And I do want to add one other thing, that what is instantaneous are the non-weight benefits, right?
Hmm.
Like that commitment to consistency and the commitment to recovery. Like in doing that, you can have non-weight benefits today. You don't binge today, you're going to have improved mood and digestion and sleep and time and energy and feeling like you're in your integrity. You can have all of that now. And if you center your recovery around those things and really make those the things that you want to notice and savor and celebrate, then it gets easier to have follow through because you actually start craving those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want to help, all of you get there. And as we're recording this, it's December and we have exciting things coming up.
Yes, it is December. And I really think that, people have this whole idea of like, I'll start on January 1st. I'm going to start on the new year, right? And recovery can start right now, today, as you're listening to this.
Mhm.
We want you recovering today. There is no reason to wait. The best time to recover is right in this moment. And I love the idea of finishing strong, finishing 2024 strong, making these last weeks of the year the best of the year for yourself, right? And so I really want to support people in doing that. And so, in addition to our weekly group coaching, which happens every Sunday, on December 30th, I am doing my annual retreat. So, if you'd like to head into the new year binge free, I'm offering a 2-hour retreat on December 30th from 10 to 12 Eastern.
The retreat is amazing. You're going to be teaching so many tools and strategies, and it's just a time that you can also ask you questions and get some personalized support.
That's right. Exactly. It's a time to come and learn these strategies in real time, do the practices with me, and get any support you need as you're heading into the new year. And the retreat is free for anybody who is in the group. So anyone getting group coaching also has access to the retreat.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Julie, for this conversation.
Thanks, Kathryn.
You can go to brainoverbinge.com/retreat to sign up, and you can find that link in the show description. There you can also find the link to join group coaching at brainoverbinge.com/group. And like Julie said, her retreat is free for any current group members. I appreciate you being here today. I believe in everyone's ability to follow through in recovery and have a lifetime of freedom from binge eating. As we near the end of this year, I want to encourage you and remind you that you have the power to change your brain and live a binge-free life. The Brain Over Binge podcast is produced and recorded by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC. All work is copyrighted by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC, and all rights are reserved. As a disclaimer, the hosts of the Brain Over Binge podcast are not professional counselors or licensed healthcare providers, and this podcast is not a substitute for medical advice or any form of professional therapy. Eating disorders can have serious health consequences, and you are strongly advised to seek medical attention for matters relating to your health. Please get help when you need it, and good luck on your journey. Need more help? You can find all of our current and upcoming options for support at brainoverbinge.com.